Welcome in everybody to the next episode of the Hot Corner. Before we get started, just a quick shout out to our sponsors. Of course, we got Chinook Eatery. I got the Hatch Chili. This is my last thing of Hatch Chili. I've used it all up. Hunter, what's your favorite sunflower seeds?
I'm an original guy. I've actually never had that brand. I need to check it out. I
Oh man, Chinook seeds are the best. Hatch Chili is my favorite, but they got like jalapeno ranch. They got a sweet one called cinnamon toast.
Yeah,
That's really different.
I got to check
Yeah,
that one out.
yeah, it's good stuff, man. And then we also got Old Dominic Tennessee whiskey, olddominic.com. It's really become my everyday drinker now. It's good stuff. Drink responsibly. Um, but as you can see, I am joined here by Hunter Gilliam, former Kentucky first baseman, SEC, extraordinaire. He's going to help us break down the SEC from the action from opening weekend. How you doing, Hunter?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on. Not a problem. Hey, let's start right off with your Wildcats, man. They go and they get the Bulldogs coming to their house, the Georgia Bulldogs, and they just absolutely waxed them. I mean, 3-game sweep. Charlie Condon only has one hit on the weekend. What's that say about these Wildcats?
Yeah, man. So I think that they were coming off of a tough weekend with Kennesaw State. So they're coming off of that. They got to regroup. Coach Minge and Coach Rozelle, Coach Amo, Kuzno, all those guys in that, coach's office, they're winners, man. And I knew they were going to figure it out. And talking to my boys, like they were amped up for the weekend. I think that they did a really good job of taking Condon a little bit out of the series. He's such a big time player and can really impact the game so drastically offensively that, I think Coach Rozelle pitched him really well, pitched to him when they needed to, but really just didn't give him too much to do damage on. And, that's a credit to that pitching staff, like Mason Moore, Dom, and then, all those guys like really, really went to work and did a great job.
Yeah, you mentioned the pitching staff, but your guys, man, they had an offensive explosion this weekend. Just a ton of runs piling up. What do you think? I guess what was Georgia doing that allowed you guys to be so productive?
I think that and it's crazy, man, because I knew the offense was really, really good. Talking to my roommates from last year, like what was going on in the inter squads, and I knew that they were mashing. They just hadn't really got it together yet. And sometimes it takes some time, man. Sometimes it takes time for especially new guys. They have a ton of new guys in that lineup who, and I think this is something that I went through also is like you're in a new program. You feel like you got to do so much to like, prove yourself, and you're just coming off of a season. If you're ending up in the SEC, especially from the portal, like you just balled out wherever you were. So there's a lot of pressure to like do well right out the gate. And, for those guys to come out and, be ready for SEC play, like that's a testament to Coach Amo. Like they got this guy, Coach Amo, man. He's the man. He gets those guys swings right every day. And, he changed my career. And I knew it was just a matter of time before the offense really turned around for him.
Yeah, when you look across the league, the home team won every series. There was not a road series win anywhere across the league. What is it about? What makes it so hard about winning a series on the road in the SEC?
Man, it's so tough. Winning a series on the road is so tough in the SEC. One, you're battling, 5 to 10,000 people who want to see you fail. I think that definitely plays into it. It's different when everyone's cheering for you versus cheering against you. And then I think the routine part of things is completely different. When we would have home series last year, my preparation was different versus what I was allowed to do on the road. Everything on the road is so time slotted, and you only have this much time to prepare, and you can't hit off your machines, and there's just so much into like home field advantage, man. Like, and I think that shows, especially later down the road when, the difference between hosting a super or or not hosting a super, being able to prepare in your environment, sleep in your own bed, do your daily routine is just makes the biggest difference in the world, especially when, you're in the SEC and everyone is so good. Like little advantages like that make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some of the elite talent that's in the SEC. One of the first things that comes to my mind is at Arkansas, that pitching staff that they've got. I mean, Hagen Smith on the front end of that rotation is nasty. I don't know if you got to see him at all this year, or I can't remember if you guys faced them last year or not. But what have you seen from Hagen Smith?
Yeah, so we didn't get to face them, but I have been watching. I think I've watched almost all of his starts this year, just being a baseball fan, and it's unbelievable what he's able to do. Like the slider is insane. I think that is a weekend, similar to last year's season when you're going to face Paul Skeens. Like you're going into it like, dude, you just got to battle as hard as you can because he's not going to give you anything. He's not going to walk you. Dude, it's just a grinded at bat, a grinded series. And man, that pitching staff, I think they allow 1 run over the series, and that was on the Sunday late innings. Like, man, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wild. I tweeted out to some friends of mine, or I said not really tweet, but I sent a message to a group chat. Some friends of mine. I was like, "Well, Arkansas is frauds. They allowed Missouri to get a run."
Yeah, man. That when you have that on a Friday, that's going to go 7 innings, and man, even on his bad night, he's going to be really good. You get a guy throwing 98 from the left side with a hammer slider. Like even when he's bad, like offensively, you can overcome that. Like a lot of starters, like if they have their bad night and you go down 4 or 5-0, like he's not giving up 5 runs on his bad night. I don't think. I watch him and I'm like, man, even if he leaves stuff over the heart of the plate, it's still 98 miles an hour coming from the left side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, no doubt. The question kind of throughout this year for them has really been the offense. It's kind of been slow to come along, but it seems like they've, Peyton Stovall coming back in the lineup has really given them a boost. What have you seen from their lineup?
Yeah, so I've been following, their games, and I see they haven't scored a ton of runs. What's the transfer? Maybe he's Hawaiian. Aloy, is that?
Yeah, Aloy. Yeah,
Aloy. Like his. I guess I've been watching his at bats, and he's super impressive to me because even though he hasn't been like on a tear, maybe like the exit velos are still up there, and I think that's the sign of like a guy who if you're going out there and you're going 4 at bats, you're hitting balls 80 miles an hour, exit velos, like you're going to have a tough season and it's going to continue to be tough. But if you're out there hitting balls 105 to 110 on consistent basis and you're just getting out, like that's going to pivot and you're going to start getting big hits and big time doubles and homers. And, that stuff is able to change. Like it's the guys that, and I don't think they have a ton of guys who are going up there and just having bad at bats. I think that it's just, teams run into bad luck and they're hitting the ball hard right at people.
Yeah, Mississippi State was another team that just had a huge offensive explosion against an LSU pitching staff that, for the pre-conference looked maybe not quite as dominant as Arkansas, but right in that same kind of conversation. And then Mississippi State just absolutely destroyed LSU pitching this weekend. And Dakota Jordan, I mean, he's one of the best hitters in the country. What do you like about that Mississippi State Bulldog team?
Yeah, I think that Dakota Jordan, I mean, obviously he's unbelievable. He's got one of the fastest bats I think I've ever seen, especially, watching a video of a guy swing and then it still looks fast is crazy. And I mean, it looks like his homers are just bombs. And the Hunter Hines guy, like, he's going to get hot, especially off the season he had in the Cape. He's going to ball out. I feel like it was also just a matter of time before that offense really got rolling. They have all the pieces. It's just, man, sometimes it's really hard to like, once you struggle a little bit, it's hard to come out of the hole, man. And once you come out of the hole, like I wouldn't be shocked if they go on a run and they really do extremely well. Like sometimes it's just getting your head above water, man. And once you're above water, you ride the wave.
Yeah, a lot of LSU fans are kind of starting to panic after this weekend, after what they saw was just so jarring, so different from what was expected. What would be your message to LSU fans after this first weekend of SEC play?
I think that, man, when I've been watching LSU, like I think that the part that has like been different for me or watching it, I played them or 5 times last year. Man, the offense was so good at, man, obviously Cruz was going to get on base almost 90% of the time. And when you get him on and then Tommy behind him, and that offense was unbelievable. And I think that they gotta find a way to just keep grinding out at bats, and Tommy's going to be Tommy, and the Bear Jones guy is probably the most juice I've ever seen in person. So I think that once they start clicking, and they've got some experience in there, and they just gotta keep grinding, keep figuring it out. And also, like, when you got a pitching staff like that, you don't have to score but so many runs.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Bear Jones having all that juice. That that home run he hit off you guys. I think it was on the Sunday in the regular season weekend. You guys have been going kind of back and forth that whole weekend, and he kind of let your pitcher. I don't remember who the pitcher was, but he let the team know that he got that home run. What made that series so chippy last year?
I think that it's the SEC, it's the Mecca, it's everything, and it was two teams who were really good, and I think that when you get a bunch of guys who are really good players who have a lot of confidence in themselves, it becomes chippy like that. And I've had my moments of that, and I don't think that a lot of times it's not directed directly at the pitcher or directly at the other team. Sometimes it's like a moment of all that hard work that you've had kind of explodes into one big just it comes across as disrespectful or letting them showing the other team up. But for me, it was always like, man, I worked so hard for this moment that I'm not going to sweat the super ultra competitive side of me come out.
Yeah, I hear that. Tennessee was another team that was really hot coming into the weekend, and then they go down to Bama, who nobody knew really know what to make of Bama coming into the season. They lost a lot of talent. They brought some guys in, get a new coach, all that kind of stuff. But Bama's looked really good, and they handled a really good Tennessee team. What did you get a chance to catch up on that series?
Yeah, I saw some of the highlights. I saw the Christian Moore homer. That was unreal. I got so much respect for him. Like, he was such a cool dude when we played him, and just a ton of respect for all of those guys at Tennessee. But yeah, Alabama's tough, man. They're gritty. They're ultra competitive too. I think that the Hodo player. He's really good. He's ultra competitive. And I think that, they were competitive last year. Like, I don't think it showed as much in the, they didn't make the super, or they made a super, right? At Wake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wake? Yeah. So, I mean, they're competitive, man. They got some really good guys. And, the Ben Hess guy, he's a beast, man. When you got that going on Friday nights, I like their chances a lot.
Yeah, you saw Drew Beam go complete game loss. Kind of a weird situation. He gives up a bunch of runs early, but then settles in and goes to the complete game. What makes him such a good pitcher?
Yeah, so we faced him last year. I think that he's got elite ride on his fastball, and then everything tunnels pretty similar for him. I think that when he's living at the top of the zone, man, it's really tough to hit his pitches just due to the ride that he has and the vert. Yeah, he's really good, man.
One of probably the marquee matchup of the weekend was Florida and Texas A&M. Texas A&M looked like they had an elite pitching staff. They weren't giving up runs to anybody. They were leading the conference in ERA by like a full run.
Right.
And then they go to Florida, who looked like they were reeling a little bit, but Florida's able to get 2 out of 3. But they were hard fought games. I mean, Jack Caglione He hits a couple of bombs. He shoves on Sunday. What do you like about this Florida team?
I think that Florida is also a group that's also just ultra competitive, man. Like I look back at last year in my experience in the SEC, and you definitely face those teams who are like really good, and then there's the teams that are really, really good and really ultra competitive. And I think that stems from their coaching staff. I think that Coach Sullivan's is he breeds competitive and he's a winner and he'll do anything to win. And I respect guys like that because it bleeds over into the team. When your coach is a dog and he just wants to win just as bad as everyone else or worse. I think that's so competitive, and I think that they're just a super competitive team that have a ton of good players. Caglione's obviously unbelievable at what he does and pitching and hitting, and they just have a lot of guys up and down through that lineup who are really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you got Cags, and then Colby Shelton came in from Alabama. He's
Yeah.
been awesome for him. But then you look on the other side of that, at Texas A&M. You got Jace Lavalette, was a beast last year and has continued on that tear. And they bring in Braden Montgomery. That lineup looks as good as any in the country. How do you expect the Aggies to bounce back?
I think that they are. I think that they're one of the most complete teams in the league. I probably think that they're the most complete team in the league, offensively and then pitching wise. And they're another team that it stems from Coach Slosh. Like he's unreal. He's just so competitive and so good at coaching. Like what he does as a head coach makes just the largest impact. And he just breeds winners. And when you have a competitive side like that and you have a bunch of really good guys, then I think that they're going to make a crazy run late.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those teams that you're not going to want to face come the end of May.
No, I think that they've got the most, and I think that pitching is what keeps you in the game. But I think that a lot of people disagree with me when I say this. That I think if you have a really like a decent pitching staff, like the offense is going to win your championship. And I think that they have that. I think that you can, if you have a pitching staff that can keep someone under 5 runs, which they can do, but they're going to score 7 or 8 in a game, I think that they have a chance to really do some damage.
Yeah, I think that was really LSU's formula last year on their way to a championship. They didn't have an elite pitching staff, but they had a really good. I mean, obviously Paul Skeens was elite, but outside of Paul Skeens, the pitching staff as a whole wasn't elite. But that lineup, was elite. So yeah, I think there's a lot to that. A lot of people like to say that elite pitching beats elite hitting all the time. Do you subscribe to that theory?
Elite pitching beats elite hitting. I agree to that. Yeah, I think elite pitching and really good pitches are impossible to hit for a hitter. But when you have a bunch of guys out there who can really, really swing it, like that pitcher's going to make some mistakes. And realistically, if he's really good, he's going to go 6 innings and 3 innings for a Texas A&M team late in the game when if it's just close. I think that 3 innings gives them plenty of time to come back and win some games.
Another team we haven't talked about yet is Vanderbilt. They get the sweep. Auburn comes into their house, but they get the sweep of Auburn. One of the things about this Vandy team that I think makes them so good is they're so experienced. And when you look at the up and there on their lineup, they've got the freshman Koziel, I think his name is, but most of their lineup is like senior, junior. How important is it to have that experience in the SEC?
Man, it's unbelievable how much you can't replicate the in-game at bats, and you definitely can't replicate the environment that the SEC is. Me coming from a small school who on a good day we were going to have 35 people in the stands, like it takes some time to adjust to that. And I can only imagine these kids who are coming from high school and having to try and perform right away at that level. It will speed you up. And it will cause you to, when your heart rate gets going like crazy, like the swing changes, your mental at bat changes, like your vision changes, and being able to have experience in that moment of, oh my gosh, my heart is going so fast, and being able to slow that down, like that's going to give, and it's going to show now for Vandy, but it's really going to show later in the year when they're in a tough road series, or they're in a super environment like Baton Rouge or wherever they are. I think like that experience and being able to slow those moments down will take them really, really far.
Yeah, the last series we hadn't talked about yet was South Carolina and Ole Miss. There was a lot of people wondering what was going to happen with Ole Miss coming into the year. They had had a rough year last year, coming off the national championship. But this year they've been kind of up and down. At least me personally, I didn't really know what to make of them. But I was really high on the South Carolina team, and they go down to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss kind of handles business down there. What do you think? I guess, what do you think about Ole Miss?
I think that Ole Miss can be really good. I think when they hit, man, they're really, really good. But some days, like, I don't know. I watched one midweek they played, and it was just like bad at bat after bad at bat, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I've seen them have some really good games, and I've seen them play not very good. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they turn it around. I think winning this series was huge for them. Like when you start conference play with a series win, especially against a good team like South Carolina, I think that can really propel, give some guys confidence. And I think this league runs off confidence, man. Like when you win a big series, like you think that you're a little bit better than you actually are, and you play a little bit better than you actually are playing. And then, sometimes you get kicked in the mouth early and you're like, oh man, like, are we that good or are we not? And you start to doubt yourself a little bit. So I think that winning could really propel them forward.
Yeah, South Carolina was a team that, I have them in my Omaha 8 coming into the season. I thought they were really primed for a big year. They had all of this returning, offensive power when you look at Petrie and Messina and Casas and all those guys. But the question was the pitching staff. And so far this season, the pitching staff has been really good, but the offense has really lagged behind. How do those guys kind of get it going?
Yeah, I think I think that South Carolina should feel like they're in a good spot because they're winning games, and the big dogs really haven't had the big, like the hot streak, as you could call it. Like there's no doubt in my mind, Messina, Petrie, Casas, like they're going to go on a streak here soon where Petrie has his 4-homer weekend, or Messina has his 3 or 4 homer weekend, and Casas, like, man, when he hits the ball in the air, it's like it evaporates, like it's a bomb. So I think that they should really feel good. I think the scariest moment is when you're losing and all your guys are hot. I think that's a scary spot to be in, because when all your guys are balling and you're still losing, like you might need to hit the panic button because it ain't going to get any better. But I think that, I don't know how many homers like Messina and Petrie, and I don't know how their weekend went. I know that Petrie hit the homer and it kind of bounced off the top of the wall, but like I think that South Carolina is going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, early, Messina and Casas are hitting kind of around 200, a little over 200. We'd certainly expect that to come up a little bit, and the power numbers haven't really been there for any of those guys. But like you said, those guys will come along. What just kind of looking back on the whole opening weekend of SEC play, what was kind of like your big overarching takeaway on the conference this year?
I think that a big one is don't sleep on the Wildcats again this year. Like, and I feel like people are always like, "What's Kentucky going to do?" Like, that program is completely different, like than it has been for the last 10 years. Like, it is completely different. They've got a bunch of winners in there who, man, you might beat Kentucky, but they're going to give you hell for 3 games as hard as they can give it to you. So I think that that's a major takeaway. Like, if you were sleeping on that weekend, or if you were looking forward to that weekend against Kentucky because you think you're going to get a series win, like I think that you better take another look back and have your stuff together when you come to Lexington. And then I think, Arkansas is going to be Arkansas again this year. I think that they're really, really good, and they don't have to score a ton of runs to win series. And I think that another team that is really, really good is Tennessee. Man, like yeah, they lost the series, but I'd be shocked at how many more they lose after this one.
You think this is the year that Dave Van Horn finally breaks through and wins a natty?
I think that when you have, the three good pitchers and the offense, yeah, you could possibly, yeah, he could do it. But I would, I don't know, man. Offense is key, and when you can score a lot of runs and you can pitch pretty well, like I think that there's going to be some real competition, especially within the league, that gives them a run, man. Like I hope they don't have Texas A&M, or I hope they don't have one of those schools like that in the Super.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hunter, I appreciate your time, man. This was a blast. Maybe we can have you back on later this season if you got some free time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, next time Kentucky gets a big series win, man. Let's catch back up. I can give you the what's going on inside the locker room from my boys' perspective of things, which is I think adds a different look to it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. So, all right, we'll catch you later.
Yeah,
and
man.
this is the Hot Corner signing off.